What is up, everybody? And here we are with part 3 of Path of Exile's 3.16 Balance Manifesto, focusing on auras, curses, and elemental DOT. Now, I'm going to give you guys a short disclaimer. I am not going to go into absolute detail with all of the changes to auras and the other reservation effects section, because this is a little bit complex, and this is something that I guess I'm not too worried about as a casual. But one important thing though to note, and this is for players who like to play solo, like to play SSF, they have said that they're gonna replace reduced reservation with reservation efficiency, right? And that when it's stacked, reservation efficiency will not allow for infinite auras though. But as you can see here, how reservation efficiency works is that it divides the cost of the reservation effect itself. So 100% increased efficiency will have the cost of all auras. 50% reservation efficiency cuts down costs enough to let you reserve an additional 50% reservation aura. And that's going to be important because we are going to go through the more important parts now instead of all of these walls of text. This is just basically rebalancing everything from reduced reservation to increased reservation efficiency, right? Here's the important part. The aura cluster jewel types will no longer be medium cluster jewels, and there will no longer be aura effect, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there we go. What they've done is that they will remove sources of aura effect from cluster jewels and move the aura cluster jewels themselves to small cluster jewels. So they're not going to be medium cluster jewels anymore. So it's no longer possible to continuously stack aura effect for your party. So they have basically killed aura bots at that part. And they will introduce a new cluster jewel notable to increase the effect of your auras on you for builds that are building auras for their own power. So that basically means solo players are gonna have, a little bit of an easier time. So to go through the spoiler, the aura cluster jewel type can now be found with small cluster jewels rather than mediums, and this makes it more costly and less impactful to stack large numbers of aura cluster jewels. Of course, which is of course true. You're gonna have to go for a lot more large clusters with a lot of voices, And the small passes will now grant increased reservation efficiency instead of aura effect. So it's gonna be like RMR. So that's actually quite nice, right? And then cluster jewel notable passive skills have all had their aura effect removed. The increased aura effect of auras on you from the purposeful harbinger cluster jewel notable now only applies to own aura's effect on you. The master of command cluster jewel notable passive skill will also now grant increased effect of non-curse auras from your skill on enemies by 10%, previously 15. So it's been nerfed a little bit. And then a new cluster jewel notable has been added that grants 10% increased effect of your auras on you. So basically, aura stackers can still feel a little bit fine. They will still feel alright, but aura bots will not be as efficient now. Then next, so will we see the comeback of aura stackers? Maybe. We never know. Cluster jewel notable passive that granted reduced reservation to specific auras instead now grant high amounts of reservation efficiency to that aura, as well as improving the secondary bonus that notable gave. So that is very interesting. So we may see, better improvements for skills, like if, for example, you're going for hatred, right? Maybe hatred will have increased effect, and also a lie. I was gonna go between large and high. So, we may see a high increase in reservation efficiency. So maybe hatred will drop from 50% to possibly 35. We don't know. And this is a really good part. They will add cluster jewel notable passives that grant high amounts of reservation efficiency to specific auras, as well as some other small bonus. This is one thing that I've seen that is new. I've never seen this before. Zealotry will have 60% increased reservation efficiency and 10% increased effect of consecrated ground that you create. Well, despite the consecrated ground being, you know, fairly meh, the increased reservation efficiency of Zealotry though is gonna be really comfortable if you are like, you know, if you are an Inquisitor and you want to try and, you know, sneak in Wrath or Hatred rather, you know? So that for me is actually a really nice bonus. Maybe you'll also have the ability to, you know, sneak in Discipline or Determination now, you know? There's lots of cool options that I'm already thinking about. So right now I'm already gonna say thank you to GGG and the devs for that. That's actually really cool for solo players. And then the Jinxed Juju amulet has been nerfed slightly. Basically just a 5% at all levels. And for curses, the Cursebots are gonna experience the same thing as well. Curse effect will now be moved to small clusters instead of medium clusters. And what have they done else? Or what else have they done? Man, I'm just frying my mind from all of the information right now. Okay, so nothing has changed. It's still going to be curse effect, I guess, but they have been moved to small clusters instead of medium clusters. Okay, so the list of cluster jewel notables that have changed: Evil Eye, Whispers of Death, and Darkness Closure clusters have been reworked as new curse-themed notable passives. So in general, curse effect that applies to all curses no longer exist on cluster jewel notable passives. So this is basically telling, you know, people who want to be Cursebots that it's still possible, but you will have to specialize in a specific curse this time. So I think the best way to go for that is, you know, Feeble. For me, I would go for like an Enfeeble specialized Cursebot because, you know, that would at least, you know, reduce damage. And then Lord of Drought. This is a cool part though. Lord of Drought, Blizzard Caller, Tempt the Storm, Misery Everlasting, and Exploit Weakness will now grant 40% increased curse effect of those specific curses, which were previously 25. So basically Flammability, Frostbite, Conductivity, Despair, and Vulnerability will now have 40% increased effect. And that is really strong, and you're gonna put that on a small cluster jewel. This is also one good thing that I see about this is that solo players can now like at least have the option to maximize a full bunch of their cluster expansion. Like, you know, it's not just gonna be like before where you would just place a large cluster jewel with 2 medium cluster jewels and then regular jewels. Now you have the option to expand them into complete cluster jewel extensions where you also have small clusters in the end where, you know, you can just increase the curse of your vulnerability. Vulnerability seems to be really strong for bleed builds now because you will have 40% increased curse effect from 25. And of course, Exploit Weakness can also be found on physical damage clusters, large clusters. So there is a chance for you to get Exploit Weakness twice, and that's going to be 80% increased effect. Woo! I mean, we all know that they can stack, so that's going to be pretty strong, in my opinion. And Forbidden Words will no longer grant increased effect of your curses, but will increase the reservation efficiency of curse aura skills. So if you have Blasphemy, that's what's going to work. And they have nerfed Doedre's skin. But before we go over that though, they will add new cluster jewel notable passives that will benefit Doom, and Marks. And that's actually really nice because, you know, at least we can specialize into Marks if we want to, because Marks are actually pretty good against bosses, and for you to amplify that power even more, can you imagine an Assassin's Mark with more effect? Poacher's Mark with more effect? Sniper's Mark with more effect. Oh. So that's going to be interesting to see. And there will also be new cluster jewel notables for curses that did not have them before. You know, you'll have punishment, elemental weakness, temporal chains, and enfeeble. So who knows? Punishment is really nice for low life, or like for like quickly taking out low life enemies. Like once you can get them to 50%, it'll just be really, really quick. So that may actually, you know, be a good benefit for punishment. Punishment may be an option this league. And now going back to Doedre's skin, it will now grant the hexes from socketed skills can apply 5 additional curses instead of your hexes just ignoring the curse limit. So you can only limit yourself to 5 this time. And they're saying that this is so Replica Doedre's Damning has some downside with using it. So that, you know, you basically, if you want to have, if you want to increase your curse effect with Replica Doedre's Damning, you will now have 1 less curse to use. And it will now grant 20% less effect of your curses for all skills instead of reduced effect of socketed skills triggered with the summon Doedre's Effigy. So that is really, really interesting to see. And what else? The Doedre's Effigy will now have a short cast time, previously instant. Its cooldown will be removed though, so you know, that's been a little bit of a rebalance, but it will also now have a mana cost. And existing items will be affected by this curse limit change, so they will only have 20% less curse effect of curses triggered with summon Doedre's Effigy. And any other unique items that have been rebalanced, Doedre's Damning will now grant 15 to 25 increased effect from 25 to 35. So I don't think it's going to be that much of an option personally, even though I don't use that build. And the Wheel of the Storm Sail will now grant 100% increased duration from 25%, so that looks good. And basically the same change of the Jinx Juju, it's still there. Now, Elemental DOT looks to be pretty nice. They have increased elemental damage by a lot, or elemental damage over time rather. So I'm guessing we're gonna have to see all of the changes in the full patch notes, but everything looks pretty nice actually for elemental damage over time right now. Okay, so what they've done is that they have greatly improved the base strength of Ignite, burning, and cold damage over time while making Elemental Overload and Elemental Equilibrium less powerful or requiring more investment with damage over time skills. They are also going to rebalance skills that could apply Ignite effects around the new base damage of Ignite and remove the Ignite damage multipliers. So basically skills that had more damage with Ignite are going to be removed because, have a look at this, player Ignite now inherently deals 150% more damage than before, which was, and to give you a precise number, it was previously 50% of base damage over 4 seconds. Now it is 125% of base damage over 4 seconds. One thing that I'd like to point out is that it is player Ignite as well, so you guys can rest easy about thinking about like the Elder Guardian's fire version rather, because he already had really powerful ignites. So we can now rest easy thinking that this change is not going to be affecting him because it's going to be player ignites. Now, as you can see here, I'm just gonna let you guys pause the video and see the changes to damage specifically, but to give you a one-liner remark, basically a lot of the cold damage over time skills dealing more damage will deal the same damage per second at level 1, or a little bit. They will be buffed by a little bit, but they will deal up to 40 to 45% more damage at gem level 20. So that is a huge buff for these skills. Like for example, let's just go through Creeping Frost. Like Creeping Frost will deal 2225.6 base damage at gem level 20 from 1391. Huge, right? The hit damage will remain unchanged, but the DOT, amazing. And you will see a lot more of that as well going down through here as you pause the video. Same goes for the burning skills. I am actually really excited. I'm even confused on what to build now, because look at this. Just for the memes, Searing Bond will only be dealing 3 more base damage at gem level 1, but it will now deal 3,899.6 base damage at gem level 20 from 2459.5. That's amazing. That's a huge increase. And even Scorching Ray. Scorching Ray may not seem pretty big, but you have to remember that the Scorching Ray applies a fire exposure while you keep on hitting, or like while you keep on applying the Scorching Ray debuff to the enemy. And Righteous Fire is also getting a lot of damage as well. So that's basically what has happened there. Now this is just a lot of just a big chunk of text saying that due to the changes with Ignite, as you can see here, Fireball will no longer deal more damage with Ignite, but it now has a chance to Ignite at all gem levels. But because of the inherent change of the Ignite damage, the Ignite with the skill is now going to be 33% higher, or going to be dealing 33% more damage. And everything is basically going to be the same with Flame Blast as well. Flame Blast might actually be juicy now. Look at that. Because of the Ignite damage changes, the Ignite of Flame Blast will be 75% higher at 10 stages. So yeah. You guys can pause the video if you want to, because this is just basically just a lot of rebalancing due to the damage over time changes. One weird thing though with Frost Bomb is that they have nerfed the damage over time from it. As you can see, the Frost Bomb will now deal up to 930 to 1395 at gem level 20, previously from 130.36 to 2003. And it no longer has reduced energy shield recharge rate, but it now has 4% more damage with hits per 0.1 second of duration. And because of the base Ignite damage changes, Ignite with this skill is now 74.1% higher when it is able to Ignite. So shouldn't that be a firebomb? Okay, here's the important part. It is very, very important, and I shall explain this to you guys because I have read it several times on stream. This is pretty shocking. The Elemental Overload Keystone passive now gives more hit and ailment elemental damage to skills if they crit in the last 8 seconds. So that basically means that you cannot use an alternate skill to proc Elemental Overload and then use a main 6 link to still use the benefit of Elemental Overload. Only that skill that proc the crit will have the increased elemental damage over 8 seconds. Yeah, that's gonna be pretty hurtful. Sad. It's sad. I was gonna use Elemental Overload this time around. And of course, Elemental Equilibrium changes is actually pretty nice, but pretty sad as well, because the Elemental Equilibrium Keystone will now apply 25% exposure of the elements not hit with, and it will remove the exposure of the elements you hit with. So that basically means that you no longer increase the resistance of the enemy based on what elemental type you have dealt damage to them with. And you can apply an immediate 25% exposure of the elements that you have not hit them with. So it's basically, they have said that it is now an easy way to apply a strong exposure effect rather than a huge damage boost that we balance elemental damage over time skills around. And some other skills have been reviewed because of these changes as well. Now, the important, this is an important part as well. We will be looking at pure elemental minions to determine what changes are needed there. So yeah, Gazzy, they're after you, my boy. And they have moved the Elemental Equilibrium Keystone passive to the Rangers section of the passive tree, where there is much less existing access to exposure for elemental builds and access to skills that rotate elements such as Wild Strike. Gazzy, they after us. Well, mostly after you, but you know, me as well. Elemental damage user. Oh my. So, what they've also done is that basically they are adding more scaling options to damage over time builds on the passive tree and items, raising the top end of damage over time for well-geared characters. I actually think that bleeding is going to be a really good form now, because there are not going to be 5 tiers of global DOT multi suffixes that will roll on all weapons, that can roll up to 26% on one-handed weapons and 45% on two-handed weapons. Really nice. There will also be 5 tiers of global DOT multiplier suffixes that can roll on all amulets as part of their base modifier pool and can go up to 26. But that's a big but. One thing that I'd like to say though is that I hope that the specific damage over time multiplier influenced suffixes can also be stacked along with these. Like for example, the hunter's physical damage over time multi. You know, if that will not allow the global DOT suffix to roll, that's gonna be like a pretty non-existent modifier then after that. I mean, would you want to go up to 16% global DOT multi, or would you like to go with the 26%? Of course you would go for the 26%, right? So I hope that they will at least allow the influenced DOT multi to stack along with global DOT multi, because that is also gonna be a good trade-off, right? That's gonna be one less suffix for you to apply a resistance with, at the cost of multiplying your damage even more. So I think that's gonna be a fair thing to say, because it's also an amulet, you know. Usually you'd have resistances on amulets. And the influence modifiers on rings that could freeze, ignite, and shock will be changed. They will no longer apply the ailment but provide a lot more base damage. So the fire version will roll up to 23 to 30 to 47 to 54 against ignited enemies. The cold version can deal 20 to 26 to 41 to 48 against chilled or frozen enemies. And the lightning version can roll 4 to 8 to 82 to 86 of lightning damage against shocked enemies. I don't know, I think we may have to go crit inqui again. I think. But I want to use supercharge. So the Essence of Delirium, they've switched those modifiers up with what they can do with rings and amulets, as you can see. It can no longer roll hexes you inflict that have +5 to maximum doom on rings, or 10% damage over time multi on amulets. But what it does now instead, that it can roll 10 to 15% DOT multi on rings, and the hexes you inflict will have +10 maximum doom on your amulets. That can give you a very good leeway to increasing like bleed damage. I think bleed gladiators are gonna make a comeback, and a very powerful comeback at that. Now, fire, cold, and physical chaos DOT multis on jewels will now have values of 6 to 8, previously from 3 to 4. Very nice. And a global multiplier can roll at 4 to 6. This is gonna be nice though, because physical will be included, previously from 3 to 4. You could increase that. And very juicy part as well is that all jewels can now roll a faster damage of ailments prefix multiplier with a value of 4 to 6%. It's basically like a mini wasting affliction now. That's amazing, and it's a prefix. Woo! So, you know, you can have like max life, faster damage of ailments, and then your damage over time multi. Isn't that gonna be tasty? I'm actually pretty confused now at this point. I don't know what to go for. But the chance to ignite, freeze, and shock suffix multis on weapons have multiple tiers now, with their chance being 10, 15, and 20%, and staves, oddly enough, will have 20, 25, and 30%. I don't know why. Damage over time multis on influence gloves and amulets can narrow values up to 16 to 20% from 13 to 16, which is very nice. It's very rounded. I like the damage values. Like I said, bleed may show up again as a meta build. Faster ignite, poison, and bleed multi on boots can now roll up to 10 to 12%, so that's also juicy, like I said. And Emberwake, which is pretty cute, will be changed. This is cool. What they will do now is that they will remove the ignited enemies burn slower, but now just deal 40% less burning damage. And that's basically what they've changed with it, right? So if you can remember, Emberwake will apply an additional ignite. So despite you dealing 40% less burning damage, if you think about it, it's still going to be more if you apply 2 ignites on the enemy. And that's actually nice. And then basically you're just gonna have to stack jewels that have a faster damage of ailments on prefixes, or faster damage of ailments modifiers. So yeah, that's cute. And burning arrow, a small change in the burning arrow has been done. No longer has a stack in burning, but will deal more base fire damage against ignited enemies. And it's pretty cool, pretty nice, looks interesting, but it has a slower attack speed at 90% of base, previously just normal. And Flame Surge, this is a very interesting part. Flame Surge will now be getting a burning ground mechanic that deals damage based on ignites on the target. And they are going to think about a similar mechanic for attacks. So that's what they've done. They will change Flame Surge and introduce a new attack-based mechanic to be able to deal much more burning damage to a targeted enemy. Yeah, very interesting. But yeah, going back to Flame Surge has been one of the oldest skills that I can remember. It's really cute knowing that, you know, what it does is that, you know, to those who don't know Flame Surge cannot ignite, but Flame Surge can deal more damage with enemies with hits against them if they're burning. So you basically have to apply, you have to use another damage source which will ignite the enemies, and then use Flame Surge and then just spam it on them. So yeah, whether or not Flame Surge will now be stacking ignites, we will not know. If that is the case, then I think we may go with that. I don't know. But yeah, that has basically been it. That has been all of the changes for the development manifesto for part 3. Very exciting. I mean, I'm still excited though. I mean, some people might get like, you know, be held back because of these changes, but they don't seem to be as freaky. I don't know. I think it's because I don't run aura bots. I don't make curse bots. I always have problems with auras. And I hated elemental DOT. So I guess this is my kind of development manifesto. So jokes on them then. So yeah, it has been a pretty interesting development manifesto. A lot of people are, you know, really, a lot of people had overwhelmingly positive reactions to the first part, mixed emotions on the second part, and here, yeah, really scary. But yeah, for me, it's still gonna be hard to tell which is gonna be our best skill to go for, because if you can think about the development manifesto, which is usually just a summary of the changes, being divided into 3 parts, can you imagine the patch notes that will be released? They will have to make all of these in more detail, and that's going to be amazing. If it took them 3 days to make each manifesto, divided into 3 parts to be shared with us. Can you imagine the full patch notes? I mean, I think we're gonna have to read throughout all of them within what, 4 hours, 5 hours? We're gonna have to eat on stream for that. But yeah, it is definitely worth looking at though, because it is going to be very, very interesting. So I have some idea of what we can go for the next league, but unless we see the full patch notes, I cannot, you know, like really put my finger on what we should really go for. I guess we will have to see, but it's either going to be Inquisitor or Gladiator, I guess, or maybe Juggernaut. Maybe even Shadow Uno. But yeah, that has been it. Oh man, it has just been amazing again. It's been a huge amount of information again. So I hope you guys have been going through the parts of the development manifesto, because they are really detailed. So we are just gonna have to wait for the full patch notes to release. I'm not sure when that's gonna happen. I think it's gonna be on Friday. Let's have a look at the announcements. I think they're here. Right? Let's have a look at them real quick. Enemy mitigation, ultimate supporter packs, expansion dates. Oh, did they give the announcement? I don't know where they placed that. Is it here? Nah. But well, hopefully tomorrow they will release the new like the full patch notes, so we can at least prepare our minds, bodies, and souls for that. So yeah, thank you everybody so much for watching and for coming along with us. This has been an amazing ride to all of this. I mean, I even skipped the mana efficiency and we still went to 30 minutes. Oh my god, sorry about that. There's just been a lot of changes. But yeah, thank you guys as always, and I shall be seeing you all in the next video, eh?